Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm just going back to my existing collection, talking about the CDs that I own, and in the alphabet I'm actually up to, still going through D. You'll remember that I recently did a ranking discography for Dark Funeral, so where I'm up to now is actually DARKTHRONE. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. Shirt is a kind of giveaway. Now, DARKTHRONE have a lot of albums, and just to let you know, with this video I'm going to split up the collection into two videos just because it's quite long, and I'm not going to do a ranking discography for DARKTHRONE, the reason being that I don't own all of their albums. Like, I own all of them from the 90s, but after that there's gaps in the collection, so this is not an official ranking discographies, but think of it as like a mini ranking discography. What I'm going to do is rank the 90s albums. So again, that's just my opinion about what's the best one, you know, and so on. So remember, if you disagree, that's fine. You know, give me your ranking. But remember, this is just my opinion. Now, DARKTHRONE obviously need no introduction. A legendary black metal band. Probably, in my opinion, probably the most influential black metal band of all time. If you think about it, like, I mean, a lot of people, there's debate about that, like Mayhem started the whole scene in Norway and everything, and there's, you know, a whole load of other bands like Bathory and, you know, the first wave of black metal. But in terms of second wave of black metal, in my opinion, DARKTHRONE has been the most influential. Like, you think about their music, it's basically the blueprint for the majority of black metal bands. And, you know, some bands have taken that further in some senses, you know, by making raw black metal. But I think that's really, it still is the blueprint to this day. But anyway, they're one of my favorite bands and of all time, you know, in this genre. So I'm really happy to be doing this today. So again, it's my list, so if you disagree, let me know why, and it's okay. And you can also give me your ranking. So what I'm going to do is go through all of the 90s albums, which are, there's 8 to talk about. So obviously, because DARKTHRONE is so well known, I'm not going to describe every single song in a lot of detail because that would be incredibly boring for you guys to hear me do that, and also you probably know the music anyway. So it's just a basic comparison of the album. So anyway, we'll get straight into it. So coming in, of the 8 albums, so 8 being my least favorite, number 1 being my most favorite. Okay, so coming in at number 8, this is Ravishing Grimness from 1999. So the last album to be released in the 90s. This one was released after a couple of years break from Total Death. So I remember it was very hotly anticipated by a lot of people, a lot of fans. Now I'll just show you the booklet. Yeah, so it's my least favorite from the 90s era. Does that mean I believe that it's a bad album? No, not at all. It's just, there's other albums that I like more than this one. So it does have that grim, raw black metal sound. The production is good because it's still appropriately grim, but it's clear enough, so that's good. And some really good songs as well, like Lifeless has got that, I like the breakdown in the middle of that song, that really catchy, simple riff, but it's just so groovy, that's really good. The Beast has got that old classic DARKTHRONE, you know, bleak sounding kind of riff, which is really good. The title track, Ravishing Grimness, is awesome, like just really emotive and powerful, and there's so many different tempos in that song, so it's invoking that old atmosphere that people know by this band. And To the Death has got a great chorus, like, you know, Pine Hill Salvation, just fantastic. Now the only six tracks in total on this album, the only 2 that don't grab me so much are The Claws of Time and Across the Vacuum, tracks 3 and 4. The Claws of Time, it's okay, like, it's melancholic and sad, but it's a bit, it plods along, it drags on a bit, and some people could say that about aspects of this album in general. Across the Vacuum is slightly better, but just those 2 don't stand out to me so much. So anyway, just show you the booklet. It's basically just the lyrics, that's all you get, no pictures or anything, and there's the actual disc. So yeah, what could I say about this? It is standard DARKTHRONE, like no surprises, you know, they're doing what they're good at, except it just sounds a bit flatter in comparison to some of their albums. But anyway, still a good album. That's Ravishing Grimness. Okay. Alright, coming in at number 7, Soulside Journey from 1990. So I'm sure most people know this. Before DARKTHRONE were a black metal band, they were actually a death metal band. And that's not the reason why this is coming at the bottom of the list. I do like death metal as well. It just seems, again, to be less interesting than their other releases. So the style they play on this album, it's that typical 90s Scandinavian death metal sound, so in the vein of bands such as Therion and Dismember, that kind of thing. So, and I do like those bands, by the way, so no surprise that I like this. And you can see here, there's the 4 original members unmasked. So it's Fenris and Nocturno Culto, except they use their real names here. And there was also a guy on bass called Dag Nilsson. Ivar Enger was Zephyrus, you know, when they were a 3-piece. So yeah, they're all here unmasked. Just show you the disc. And then a very sort of basic lyric sheet. But yes, a good death metal album. But what I will say is there are a lot of moments where I find that it sort of plods along a bit and some songs pass you by. And obviously I'm not writing this album off because there are some great songs, but there's just moments where I find that it wanders a little bit and it sounds a bit flat. Like it's not harsh or grim like the black metal albums, like the production's quite good, but it still sounds flat to me anyway. But there are a lot of great songs on this, like Cromlech is just an absolute classic, that opener. Just so memorable, all of the lyrics and the music and that awesome chunky riff that draws out that song at the end. It's just brilliant. Also Sunrise Over Locust Mortis is a great song, like just one where the lyrics really stick in my head. It's easy to sing along to that one. Now, what was it? Accumulation of Generalization. That is a very good instrumental track. It just builds and builds and it's very powerful. It's great. And my other 2 favorite tracks would be Grave with a View. Just some really catchy, quirky riffs in that, and memorable lyrics as well. Quite funny lyrics, actually. Entertaining. And then also Iconoclasm Sweeps Cappadocia, like that really haunting intro, and then that blistering guitar solo and the vocals. It's just fantastic. So yeah, as an overall album, it's a great listen, but I just find, for me, there's a handful of standout tracks, those ones I mentioned. So Cromlech, Sunrise Over Lotus Mortis, Accumulation of Generalization, Grave with a View, and Iconoclasm Sweeps Cappadocia. 5 out of 11. Yeah, but good album. There's just other ones I prefer more than this, so that's DARKTHRONE with Soulside Journey. Okay. Coming in at number 6, Total Death from 1996. Okay. Yep, so first of all, cool cover art. This is one that a lot of people seem to like. I think that's really atmospheric, that art. And this was the album that I bought when I was in my last year of high school. That's when it came out, so I have very nostalgic memories of this. This was one of those albums, along with Frost by Enslaved, that I listened to pretty much every day in my last year of high school. So there's those nostalgic memories. Just show you the disc here. Yep, which is cool. And booklet with lyrics. So this was by the time that they had become a 2-piece with Nocturno Culto and Fenris. Yeah, and lyrics there. Gatefold LP with the different artwork. Yeah, so this album is very good. What's interesting about this one is that the lyrics were written by all different people. So I think Fenris said something like he wanted to bring different people together. So like all these people from famous black metal bands like Garm from Ulver, someone else from, I can't remember now, I think Satir wrote lyrics. Yeah, so they were just collaborating with some different lyrics here. So yes, good album, and as I said, it's very nostalgic to me. The thing which is interesting about this one is the production is a lot better than their rawer albums. It sounds a bit more polished, but again, when it's more polished, it's lost its bite a bit. It does sound a bit flat again, like a couple of those other albums that I mentioned. Now, so like I'm not saying that something has to sound horrible to be good, not at all, in fact. But this one, it just sounds, it's lost its bite a bit. So like but the good thing is you can actually hear the bass. The drums are just too far in the background, I find, and yeah. So but like a lot of the songs are really good. Like again, just great memories for me, like Earth's Last Picture, especially those melancholy riffs at the end, just brilliant. Black Winged is one of my favorites, like just so incredibly catchy and haunting and evil sounding. That's great. Gather for Attack on the Pearly Gates is another just epic song, like great memorable riffs. That's the thing, the guitar riffs on this album, like sometimes you have to sit back and really acknowledge them and go, oh, actually, yes, these are fantastic riffs. So it's not regarded as one of their classic albums. I think it's underrated. Black Victory of Death, which Ishan wrote the lyrics for that one, I remember. That is another good song, great double kick drumming in that, and some really haunting riffs as well. Majestic Desolate Eye, slower song, but like just some great heaviness and atmosphere in that song I really like. Blasphemer, like fast and manic, great scream in that. And then it finishes with Ravna Yuv and the Serpent's Blessing, which is kind of a slow, groovy track. So musically, very, very good. I just think this one is let down a little bit by the production because it makes it sound flat. But nevertheless, if you can put that aside and just acknowledge the quality of the music, it is a good album. So that's Total Death. Okay. Up next, also from the same year, 1996, this is Goatlord. So, just showing you this one, it lists the albums in order here, and it says, you'll notice it says Soulside Journey, Goatlord. But wait a minute, Soulside Journey came out in 1990, so this one was released in 1996. It's actually from an instrumental rehearsal from 1992, so this one even was recorded before A Blaze in the Northern Sky. So this one, it's when they were kind of like still a death metal band, and it was an instrumental rehearsal, and then from 1992, and then in 1994 they put vocals over the top, which was Nocturno Culto singing in that raspy black metal style. So it's kind of like a juxtaposition between black and death metal. Musically, it's got more in common with death metal, but very black metal vocals. But that's what I like about this album. It really stands out apart from all the others. And it's got this really sort of raw, murky production, but it just sounds so menacing and evil, so I really do like it, and obscure, just weird, which is great. And one thing which is good, because they were still playing death metal, you can still hear the bass really, really audibly in this, and it just gives the music so much depth. So it's just like a really unique, grim, haunting atmosphere. And another thing about this album is they incorporate some high-pitched vocals, so I think there was some debate. Some people said they're female vocals, other people have contended that it's actually the members of the band just singing in a shrill, high voice. But I find that those kind of vocals, they just add an icy atmosphere to the music, so it makes it more haunting and menacing. But really good. Another thing that's interesting about this, because the vocals were done so much later, they used lyrics from the songs of Under a Funeral Moon. So when you listen to the vocals being sung in this, you go, oh, that's from an Under a Funeral Moon song, isn't it? Yes, so all of those lyrics just recycled here, which is, you know, some people might say that's disappointing, but then again, to me, the lyrics, it's not that important on this release. The vocals are more like a musical instrument, and they deliver those, you know, well-known lyrics in a different way, which is cool. So, so many good tracks on this, but I think my favorite tracks have always been, like, ever since, you know, my late teens, early 20s, track 4, Sadomasochistic Rites, and track 5, As Desert Shadows. This is an album which is more atmospheric than any of the other DARKTHRONE albums, actually, with the kind of mood it delivers, but unique for that reason. Also, Green Cave Float, just a classic song, and like really just the crispness and rawness of the drums and that, with all the raw feedback and the chaos in the background. It just really invokes this grim atmosphere. So underrated and unusual, released by this band. So that's Goatlord from 1996. Okay, so coming into the top 4 now, and these are the ones that most people consider to be the top 4, I think. So no surprises, and I'm not saying that to be cliched, it just happens to be the case. By the way, with these last 4, today I was listening to the albums, and it was really difficult actually to rate them, because they're all really good, and I was trying to put them in order, and I had a preconception of how the order was going to be, and as usual, it changed when I listened to them. When I really think about it objectively, the order was quite different. So, coming in at number 4, Panzerfaust from 1995. First of all, great album. And by the way, as I've mentioned, all of these albums I really like, even number 8, but it just gets better and better here. So this was the one, the band had become a two-piece by this point, after Zephyrus had left the band. So it was Fenris and Nocturno Culto. This album stands out as a bit different because it's unique again. Like it's taking influences from thrash and bands like Celtic Frost. So there's some more sort of chugging riffs. It's not always those like bleak tremolo kind of fast riffs and everything. So there's like chin 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 chin, some really chugging riffs, and it sounds really heavy and menacing. That's what I like about it. Initially I thought this was going to be number 2, but then, you know, after some deliberation it went down. But let me explain. The vocals on this are absolutely out of control, like probably the most extreme vocals Nocturno Culto has ever done. Like, they're shouted, but it sounds like he's being tortured or something like that. Like, you just hear it, like he must be really working his throat there, but like, just great. It adds to the grim quality of this album so much. Now, 7 tracks on this, and most of them are really good for me. En Vind av Zorg, the opening track, that's very similar to the album Transilvanian Hunger, with those bleak tremolo riffs again, and just a great dark atmosphere. Triumphant Gleam, that's just got some tremendous thrashy riffs in that, and thunderous drums, and the vocals are so grim, awesome. Track 3, The Hordes of Nebula, one of my favorite DARKTHRONE songs ever. That is a slow plodding song, but it is just so groovy and heavy. The drums are brilliant in that, and I like the bit in the intro when they kick in, like do 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 on the tom drums. It's just awesome before the rhythm kicks in. And then, so those first 3 tracks are awesome. Track 4, Hans Sister Winter, that's not one of my favorites, but it's still okay. After track 4, I find that the album does wander a little bit. Beholding the Throne of Might is a good song again, like some great grim chugging riffs in that, which is good. Actually really good. Quintessence. So this is the one, that's another slow one again, with some very pained, harsh vocals again. It's great, except fans will know that that was the one, it was also done by Storm, which involved Fenris and Satir, and they did the version with the clean Viking Nordic vocals called Noregsgard. And to be honest, I heard that song Noregsgard before I heard Quintessence, so after hearing Noregsgard, this one is not as good, in my opinion, but I still do enjoy it, don't get me wrong. And then the closing track on this album, Snør og Granskog. Yeah, the outro, that is a very unusual outro for this band, but it's absolutely brilliant, just invoking this haunting Nordic atmosphere. I think it's like trumpets or something like that. It sounds a bit like a fanfare, and it's got these chanted vocals over the top, but like very, very atmospheric, and it's just a brilliant closer. So yes, this is a very different sounding DARKTHRONE album, and I really do like it a lot. Just a couple of songs which don't grab me as much, being Hans Sister Winter and Quintessence, but certainly not bad track. So that's Panzerfaust from 1995. Okay, coming into the top 3. All right, no big finish, I'll just get straight into it. Number 3, Transilvanian Hunger. Absolutely classic album. So lyrics here. The artwork is amazing. I used to have the shirt of this, except it got too small for me. Went through the wash too many times. But yes. Now this is one, I still feel it's underrated. Most people like it. When I talk about the DARKTHRONE blueprint, which influenced so many bands, this album, I think, has single-handedly influenced so many black metal bands with the style of riffing, the rawness, everything like that. This was the album, it came out in 1994. This was the first album as a 2-piece with Fenris and Nocturno Culto. So what you have on this album, it's just really fast, hypnotic riffs, and it creates this grim, sort of depressive, bleak, dark atmosphere. A lot of people complained about the production on this one, saying it's, you know, shit, like it's kind of muffled and unclear. But when I listened to it today, I thought it's not that unclear at all. It's like, obviously it's not polished, but you can at least hear the bass very well. Just that the drums are a bit muffled in the background, but like the vocals and everything, it's just a good blend. So I used to regard this as my second favorite one, actually, and you know, I still love it a lot. The only thing is there's not as many standout tracks on this as later ones, so as in later up in the rankings. So let me just talk about my favorite tracks, cutting to the chase. Like the title track, Transilvanian Hunger, is a classic. I love that ever since the first time I heard it. Like, just great bleak melancholic riffs in that, fantastic lyrics as well. Now my other 2 favorite tracks, as I've mentioned in a previous video on this channel, are tracks 5 and 6. So they are Graven, Tarkenheimen, Sala, and Ian Hall med Flesk og Mjod. So those ones, like Graventarkenheimen Sala, that has just some really melancholic, ingenious riffs. Like that atmosphere, it's just so emotive and atmospheric to me. It's brilliant. And the same with Ian Hall med Flesk og Mjod. Sorry, that's a mouthful. But like just the yeah, those riffs and the melodies they write in that song, so ingenious. And then it's got like the 2/4 drum beat breakdown in it. It's fantastic. So those are my 3 favorite tracks. The others are all still good though. Like the other one I probably really like a lot is As Flittermice as Satan's Spies. That's a very manic, chaotic song, and they've got that great guitar solo at the end. Also, Skål av Satan Sol is a good one. And then the other ones, Slotted I det fjerne, and As I djup skogen. Sorry, I can't pronounce this for shit. Those other ones, they're good songs, except they're not as much standout songs. That's the only thing. But anyway, just a brilliant album, blinding atmosphere. It is fantastic. If you've never heard this, definitely check it out. It's essential for Norwegian black metal and in the genre in general. So once again, my favorite tracks: Transilvanian Hunger, Graventarkenheimen Sala, and Ian Hall med Flesk og Mjod. And I don't want to say that again. So anyway, DARKTHRONE with Transilvanian Hunger, legendary. Okay, coming down to the final 2 now. Coming in at number 2 for me, A Blaze in the Northern Sky from 1992. So this album is again an absolute classic. Essential in the genre. Norwegian black metal in general. This was the album that pretty much made the Norwegian and black metal scene in general explode. Like when this came out, the scene just went berserk. That's what really got it going. And I know Mayhem was active before this, but this album seemed to have perhaps a greater impact. And I think it was the case that this band was offered to take over as leaders of the scene, but they chose not to because they were, humble, modest people, looked up to Mayhem and everything. But yes, you can see why this was so influential, because the album they had released before this was Soulside Journey, the death metal album. The difference was night and day. Like, this is harsh, garagey production, sounding more like Bathory and Celtic Frost, so it went from death metal to black metal overnight, being influenced by Euronymous and Mayhem and everything like that. But yes, there are some elements retained from their death metal days, like with the slower riffs and certain atmospheres, but I would say in general it's definitely going in the direction of black metal. What I'll say about this is the production. When I listened to it today, sometimes you take things for granted, but the production is right on the money. The sound, like, it's garagey deliberately, and the guitars are really sort of buzzsaw and harsh, but at the same time, you can hear everything clearly, so it just sounds like frostbitten. It's like, it's got some punch, it's got some bite. Same with the drums, they're really crisp. The vocals are like just really sharp and grim, so like, I think the sound they got on this album with the production was absolutely perfect. And 6 tracks on this. This is an epic album. I used to think that this one was kind of, it lost points for being a bit repetitive, but at the same time, that makes it kind of trancey and epic when you hear some of these riffs. Like today I was listening to it and I was going, no, I'm not getting bored with this at all. It's fantastic. So favorite tracks for me on this would be the opening track, Catharian Life Code, with that, those haunting chants at the beginning, which immediately creates this dark atmosphere, and great chugging, heavy, slow riffs in that song, as well as the blasting parts, which are great. Track 2, In the Shadow of the Horns, just that's like a groove-driven black metal track, very catchy riff in that, and brilliant vocals, also great swing time beat in the middle of the song and guitar solo, absolutely fantastic. Also track 3, Paragon Belial, that opening scream in that song with the heavy, thunderous drums and the slow riff and everything, it is invokes grimness and darkness. Absolutely brilliant. Track 4, Where Cold Winds Blow. Harsh, tortured vocals in that song, and like the blast beats and the guitars and everything, it just sounds so frosty and grim. It's fantastic. Tracks 5 and 6, they were the ones that I used to not like as much actually, but like when I listen to it, like A Blaze in the Northern Sky, the title track, has just got some really amazing riffs in that song, like the mid-pace sort of like swing time, like just really catchy, brilliant guitar solo, and like just that song invokes an incredible amount of atmosphere. It's brilliant. Also the Pagan Winter, that was one, it never used to be a standout track for me. When I heard it again today, I was going, actually, there are some really memorable melodies in that song, and also that drum beat, like, which they do a lot in this album. Like, they have that sort of pumping groove beat, but brilliant black metal album, like essential. So Transilvanian Hunger, this one and the other one I'm going to talk about, these are the essential ones for this band, but I think everyone knows that. But yes, this is what set the black metal world afire, this album. So very influential, and it's classic, it's brilliant, A Blaze in the Northern Sky. Okay, so people who know me and have seen my previous videos will know what's coming for number one, and you know there's only one left. My number one, Under a Funeral Moon from 1993. Brilliant, perfect album. So I'll tell this story once more, why not? But it was when I was about 16 years old in Byron Bay. I went into this, like I was a fan of black metal then, and I listened to certain bands. I'd never heard this band at the time. This year, what was the year? 1995, something like that. And then in this surfy music shop, there were all these colourful CDs, and I was going through the rack, and then I saw this one. I was saying, what the hell, black metal in this shop? That's really cool. I asked to listen to it on the listening station, and when I heard the first two tracks, I was just completely mesmerized and blown away. And that's when I became a fan of this band. For that reason, this album is my favorite to this day. It was just the first one I ever heard, and I remember it just had that striking impact on me. So this one came out after A Blaze in the Northern Sky. That had elements of death metal in it, but this is one when it became purest black metal. So a lot faster, grim, ugly production on this. But what is really cool about it is it's got that frostbitten bite, just like A Blaze in the Northern Sky. The production's maybe even uglier on this one, but like the drum sound, it's got that, I don't know, just crisp sound, and you can actually hear the bass really well in this. It's like this nocturnal pulse, like through the whole music. It's fantastic. The drums are really heavy. I read in my vinyl version of this that they really concentrated on getting a heavy floored tom-tom sound, and you can hear that in this album because it just sounds thunderous. So yes, it is raw and frostbitten, but at the same time incredibly heavy, and you can hear the bass well. It's fantastic. Like what I like about this album is every single track stands apart. Every track sounds different. You know, every track is a standout track basically. Like Natasha in Eternal Sleep, just some really weird creative riffs on that song, great nocturnal pulse with the bass, fantastic lyrics which I always remember. Summer of the Diabolical Holocaust, brilliant song, like just some fast chaotic riffs in that, and when they have that breakdown in the middle, you know, with the thunderous floor toms and heavy riff, kind of like reminiscent of Freezing Moon a bit, but it's just, I never get tired of that song, Summer of the Diabolical Holocaust. Dance of Eternal Shadows, the third track, like just some really heavy, grim sounding riffs at the beginning, heavy floored tom-toms, and like these, just brilliant vocals, like just sounds so evil. They're a little bit echoey, and it's like, you imagine it being like sung by some demon in the forest, something like that, but brilliant track. Unholy Black Metal is just fast and manic, fast riffs and like manic drumming and that. Simplistic lyrics, but it like stands out as a catchy song. Then you go to track 5, To Walk the Infernal Fields. That's they change pace again. It's like slow, mid-paced and swing time a bit, but just like very catchy riff in that song. And also the lyrics, which are mostly written by Fenriz, I think, they're just so memorable to me to this day. Like I never forget these lyrics. Fantastic. Track 6, the title track, Under a Funeral Moon. Brilliant song, like just some fast manic riffs in that, like, and the rhythms, you know, like but like just incredibly catchy rock and roll riffs in that song with those melodies. They're just infectious, and great lyrics once again. And then they shift into that sort of mid-paced groove-driven part in the middle of the song, followed by a blistering raw guitar solo. By the way, Zephyrus was still in the band, so they were a three-piece. This is when they were at their best, in my opinion. Like just his guitar playing, like his leads, they sound so raw and manic and blistering. It's absolutely brilliant. And so it was Nocturne Occulto. He played bass on this album. And then track 7, In I det djupa skogens farven, which I think means in the embrace of the deep forest, something like that. Yeah, just brilliant, like very fast hypnotic riffs in that, and really just off the wall stuff, like but so groovy and hypnotic at the same time. Track 8, Crossing the Triangle of Flames, just another hypnotic track again, with some really harsh, explosive drumming in that song, and just interesting music and lyrics in that song. And then like when it fades out to that slow riff at the end with the thunderous drums and the drum rolls and everything, it's just creating this menacing atmosphere. And then it finally, when it fades out at the end, it's just like this menacing echoing sound of like a gong or a floor tom-tom. I can't remember, but it just sounds really ritualistic and eerie. So a brilliant end to a brilliant album. So from the way I've been talking about this, you can easily tell it's my favorite. So yeah, Under a Funeral Moon, my number one. Check it out. So yeah, I think most people, they say this is the unholy trinity. So A Blaze in the Northern Sky, Under a Funeral Moon, and Transylvanian Hunger. But as I've mentioned, all albums are worth checking out. Okay, so thanks a lot for your attention, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, if you disagree with my ranking, that's okay. Just tell me yours. And yeah, let me know, what do you think of this band? What's your favorite album? What do you like about this band? What I'm going to do in the next video is talk about my remaining DARKTHRONE albums, but they will not be ranked. So 2000 and beyond. That's because I don't own all of those albums, but still some really good ones in there. So this is just my ranking for today of their 90s albums. Okay guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a thumbs up to show me some support. I'd appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet and you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. In the meantime, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you all in the next video. Cheers.